I want to come back to the Middle East and drill into a bit more depth, but before we do that, one more kind of global macro question, if I may. Clearly the globe is facing some, longer term, is facing some pretty strong headwinds in terms of climate change, global warming, population and its sustainability, and people even talking about agriculture and the availability of foodstuffs, etc. Obviously we're talking long term. What of those, or any others, what do you see as some of the, one of the really big ones that we have to find a solution to, and are the governments around the world doing enough?
One of the things I learned when I was Prime Minister is that there's a very irritating thing that happens in politics, which is that the problems don't come sequentially.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can have several problems at once,
Yeah.
and I'm afraid that's just the way it is. So I do think you've got a real issue around the global coordination of economic policy. I think that's one big issue. I think you have got this whole issue to do with extremism, which I think is another major issue. And then, yes, I think the issues to do with climate and the environment are very important for the long-term health of the world. But, however pessimistic we are, it's always important, I think, sometimes to take a step back and look at the broad perspective.
Yes.
The truth is, over these past 50 years, humanity's made enormous progress.
Yeah.
So even despite everything, you come here to the Emirates,
Yeah.
and you realize what was here 40 years ago and what's here today, and it's big
Great
change.
progress.
Yeah.
Absolutely. On a global level, what are the geopolitical risks that are not on our radar currently that we need to be aware of?
Yeah, people often ask me this, and I always say that if I knew the answer, they'd probably be on the radar. I think the ones I mentioned are the ones that I see. But
you mentioned social media and the way that kind of proliferates, the spread of good or bad, for that matter. I mean, is social media, technology, etc., has that kind of changed the game compared to, the problems we were facing 20, 30 years ago?
Yeah, I think social media is itself a revolutionary phenomenon. And it's, I'm going to say something a little bit controversial now, but...
That's fine, we do controversial.
I mean, social media is a fact, so there's no point in arguing whether it's a good or a bad thing.
Yeah.
But I get really anxious when I think policies being made by Twitter feed.
Where's Dan, our Twitter guy? Dan, no policy fiddling, please. Okay.
No, but I mean, it's just, I had a leader in Europe say to me a short time ago, he said to me, well, I'm going to have to do this. And I said, well, why are you doing that? And he said, look, there's 100,000 people on Twitter or something. And I said, well, what does that mean? I mean, does it mean there's 100,000 people? Does it mean there's 1 million people?
Yeah.
Or do they represent 10 million people? But you go off, how do you know the answer to that? And here's the thing about politics, you see, which is really, really difficult. One thing that people used to say to me when I was Prime Minister, which they say to all Prime Ministers and Presidents, they say, listen to the people. Right? And I would say, yep, okay, I've listened to them, but here's the problem. They're saying different things. So it's not a great help to tell me I've got to listen to the people, because I'm still stuck with the decision there, okay? So, and the thing with the social media is that when you are a political leader, though, obviously leadership is about stepping out and not stepping back. Okay, that's leadership, and it's the same whatever walk of life you're in. But you kind of want to know, and this is the calibration you do as a leader, that if you're stepping out, roughly someone's behind you, right? Otherwise you're stepping out and you're all isolated. What social media does is it confuses your ability to perceive the reality of things. And it's why I say to people sometimes it sort of brings about what I call the era of the loudmouth. And the one thing I really did learn in political leadership is that those that shout loudest don't necessarily deserve to be heard the most.